Around the age of 6, children start to move into a new stage of development. And I often hear from parents as this transition is occurring, some sadness and bewilderment because in some ways you suddenly have a new child. It's just not the same child that you've had these first 6 years. New characteristics are emerging. Sometimes these children don't want to be seen with their parents, or they don't want help from their parents, or they don't want to give them a hug goodbye. And this can be, there's a period for parents here where, we have to acknowledge that we're saying goodbye to our babies, and we're welcoming this child that's building really into their own person. And so parents can sometimes be bewildered, sad about this transition, which is normal and it's okay. But we want to be sure that we're still supporting children in this transition because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Children grow up, and our job as adults is to support them as best we can. So what we're going to see in this transition as parents is we're going to see children who really want to know the answer to the question, why? Remember when they were younger and they would ask all the time, what is this? What is this? You can probably almost hear that little baby voice asking this, And we gave them the language. We helped them to understand how to name and describe the world around them. In the elementary years, as the children move from an absorbent mind that is taking in all knowledge to a reasoning mind that's trying to figure everything out, you're going to hear your children ask you why. And they're wanting to know the whys of everything. And they will test your limits of your knowledge, which is okay. You don't have to immediately Google the answer for them. It's okay for them to think a lot about it first. I don't know. Why do you think that is? What do you think's going on there? Right? We can just ask more questions and encourage their reasoning mind to think about the world that way. So we have a reasoning mind that takes over, that wants to know the whys of everything. We have children that are sturdier and testing their physical stamina. So you're going to want to be sure at this age that you're providing lots of opportunity for them to see what their bodies are capable of, and letting them really test it because they're strong and they're sturdy at this age. And they do start to distance from their family a little bit. And they have to. How can they, prepare to move into society if they don't start testing that distance from family? So you want to nurture and encourage that and help them to feel safe and confident in being away from you and being comfortable interacting in other sorts of situations outside of the home and outside of school. This is important for them to practice this because in a few years, they're going to increasingly have to engage more and more with broader society in order to build their independence as adults. So it's okay that they're separating from you. And we have to be the safe place for them to come back to. And also the people that are helping them feel confident about taking steps away. And that's an important part of our work with elementary children as parents. Children are not as focused at this age on external order like they were under the age of 6. So now you may see that they are messy a lot and that they are less inclined to keep things physically ordered. They still are perfectly capable of doing it. We just need to provide more of that expectation for them. but they're trying to really focus on ordering their minds. They're taking in so much information and wanting to know so much that as much as possible, anytime we can help them organize that, anytime we can relate new knowledge to previously gained knowledge or help them make those connections, that's helping their minds order and organize and classify everything they're learning. So that's part of our work, to facilitate that internal order and provide expectations for the external order. We have to remember as parents that techniques that may have worked in terms of managing or supporting their independence under the age of 6 may no longer be effective. We learned this as parents really clearly once when our daughter, who was turning 6 one summer, applied one of those techniques on us. We had grown quite accustomed to giving her sort of 2 choices all the time about different activities or different things. You know, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Do you want to wear this shirt or do you want to wear that shirt? You know, to help limit choices, to help her exercise her will and learn how to make choices. And this is a really useful technique under the age of 6. But at around age of 6, it may become less useful, like it did for us when she turned to my husband and said, "Daddy, you can get me ice cream or you can get me candy. It's your choice." And we learned that that was not a technique we were going to use anymore with our elementary child who was able to reason and negotiate. So those are things we have to keep in mind as we're seeing this shift into elementary age child who can reason and think like this. We have to change our approach as parents. We have to become even more collaborative with them and be willing to have conversations and negotiations about some things. Some things are non-negotiable, but whenever possible, we want to collaborate with elementary children to help them in their development. Elementary children are excited about humanity's accomplishments. So we should share stories about humanity's accomplishments. They're prone to having heroes, and we want to share a variety of heroes with them. We want to share, some known heroes that have been well documented in history. We want to share the unknown heroes that we're not sure who did this or who discovered that, but we're still going to, tell you a story and be grateful for it. We want to elevate heroes that have been that have been marginalized in the past as well. We want to be sure that we're bringing in the voices of those people that haven't been traditionally heard in our history too. So we can tell stories and really respond to young children's tendency for hero worship. This is an age where we're going to see a developing moral sense and sense of responsibility in the children. So you're going to hear from children probably a lot about things not being fair. And this is normal in children's development when they start to realize, first of all, that things are not fair. And when they are really thinking about what do I believe and what do I think is equitable and fair. This is the time to start having conversations about equity versus fairness, where people get what they need and what is, and what they deserve. And you might have some challenging conversations about the systemic issues in our country and in our world that makes things unfair and unequal for certain people. And these are the kinds of things that children need to hear and have conversations about with you, because they are really driven to develop their own sense of justice and their own sense of morality. And we want them to wrestle with these issues. And ultimately, hopefully, they'll be the adults that can really work to solve some of these. So the elementary child is a different child from the child you had before. And you need to accept that and embrace that. They're amazing. They're excited about learning. They can learn tons of stuff in this next 6 years. but they are a different child, and therefore we have to embrace it, we have to be ready for it, and we have to be ready to respond to them.